What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, we know going into 2023, Sony has several pieces of hardware that will be releasing, and one of those is the DualSense Edge controller. There were some previews yesterday that took place, and, well, we had some more information come out around a certain feature that's definitely getting a lot of backlash online. We'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about the Nintendo Indie event that is still ongoing, as we had several games revealed yesterday, and we'll also be talking about High on Life, because we had a milestone that it's now hit that is an interesting thing to see, considering how divisive the opinions have been on the game. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with Sony and the PlayStation VR 2. First, we did have a look at the box art that will be accompanying the different games for this if you buy them physically, as it will have to at least be noted that you need the PlayStation VR 2 headset to play the game, which we can see the box art here. This is for that Walking Dead Retribution, or Saints and Sinners Retribution Payback Edition here, and has a little banner at the top there, just under that PS5 logo white strip that says PlayStation VR 2 required, and I guess it blends in well enough. It's not like how when the Xbox Series first came out, we had that massive sticker on the front that said Series X. That was a huge eyesore. Just a more subtle approach here. But the other thing with the PlayStation VR 2 is it does appear we're gonna get more information around it during Sony's CES conference, and they have this posted up on YouTube now. It says live in 15 days. It'll be on January 4th, and even though this is Sony's CES event, you can see PlayStation VR 2 front and center. And to me, that makes a lot of sense for an event at CES, as it is generally technology driven that at times will be well out of reach for consumers. I'm talking like TVs that are $10,000 to $15,000 or don't even have a price on them, and it's just a concept. Virtual reality, I think, works into the advanced technology sector there. But this being something that's already sold out for the most part, waiting lists, it seems like Sony might just want to do one final push heading into its launch, that being in February. Also, we did have the announcement that Sifu will be heading to Xbox and Steam, that happening March 2023, along with downloadable content. There was a trailer that was released for this, and this is their arena mode, and they were showing it off here, and I thought, you know, that's kind of cool, but it looks like it will play into a bunch of features that you'll unlock. They say successfully completing the arenas will progressively unlock a massive new modifiers batch, which doubles the current game's amount and notably brings alternative moves to the kung fu palette of our main character. Completing the new arenas challenge will also unlock new cheats. That's interesting. Usually you need to buy those with a credit card and microtransactions, and exclusive new outfits. Same thing there. This actually looks like something really cool to go back to the game for. I enjoyed Sifu quite a bit, and it's good to see it go. It's already gone to the Switch that launched in November, now going to Xbox and Steam, because remember, it launched as an Epic Games exclusive. Just seeing more people get to play this game is great, because I think it is an awesome title from Slow Clap, and more people should be trying it out. But even so, I guess I'll head back to it to check out the arenas and also see what you can unlock there. Oh, and it looks like we have another event to look forward to here. This one from Devolver Digital, and their events generally are off the wall and all over the place, but we can see this. It's currently waiting right now, just over 40 hours left. It's happening December 22nd. This is their public access holiday special, and they do list some of the games that'll be here. New details on Cult of the Lamb. I guess some of the stuff will just be downloadable content. Stick It to the Stickman, Terra, Angerfoot, and Skate Story. Skate Story probably being the one that I'm very interested in here, with all the different titles listed, as Skate Story is supposed to be coming out in 2023, and it's a skateboarding game. Has kind of that same viewpoint of just skate, but you're skating through. It's kind of like an adventure game, I guess, with a storyline as you're skating through the underworld. Very, very unique premise and setup here for a skateboarding game. So I guess we'll be checking this one out tomorrow when it airs on the 22nd. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sony's DualSense Edge for the PlayStation 5. We're a bit over a month away from its release on January 26th, and most people who wanted it have already pre-ordered it and all of this, but we are seeing previews now go live. This happening yesterday, and there were some pretty cool things in there. I'll say that, like, for example, a lot of the customization you can do when it comes to the analog sticks, the triggers, it does appear you can shape and mold the controller to fit your experience on a PlayStation 5 game, whether it's a first-person shooter or a third-person action-adventure game. And they did showcase the swappable analog sticks that look pretty easy to do. They kind of slot in and have a socket, and then it sort of clicks into place there, which great, obviously, because stick drift is a thing across the board, and while it's more noticeable and really talked about with something like the Joy-Con controllers for the Switch, or the PlayStation, Xbox controllers, they'll still get those. So good to see you just need a little module rather than a $200 replacement controller. And that's one of the big sticking points here after seeing this headline going around from The Verge, where it says Sony's $200 DualSense Edge for PS5 will have moderately shorter battery life. They have the entire company statement from Sony here that reads, the DualSense Edge wireless controller's operating time is moderately shorter than the original DualSense wireless controller because we've included many more features within the same form factor and ergonomic design as the original DualSense controller. We wanted to strike a good balance between wireless operating time and delivering robust high-performance features. Additionally, the longer USB braided cable is also great for competitive players who prefer playing with a wired connection to avoid wireless interference. This option preserves battery life. I mean, yeah, if you plug the controller into the USB port on the system, you won't have to worry about battery life, but many people want to use their wireless controller as a wireless controller. So using the word moderately is definitely the way I would go if I was in charge of PR and had to at least spin it a bit to say, yes, this $200 controller is technically going to last a shorter amount of time between charges than your $70 controller that maybe you even got on sale during Black Friday for $50 or something like that. The thing that's weird to me about this, yes, it's $200. I'm trying to think of the features that are in here that would make the battery life even noticeably shorter to where they would feel the need to comment on it at all. They could say it's comparative battery life, something like that. Moderately does tell me that if we ran battery tests on this, it's 10, 20% less. And the battery life on the DualSense is already, to me, a noticeable issue with the controller. I mean, Sony in general, if you think about their controllers with the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 4, the battery life has never been very good for them at all, right? So to hear now this controller is even less when it comes to battery life, but the price tag is more than double their standard DualSense controller, yeah, that's going to cause some frustration and backlash online, which it did. This headline that was put up there just got roasted all over the place with the DualSense controller having that issue. And if you look around, the Xbox Series controller, even on AA's, 20 to 30 hours of battery life. The Xbox Series 2 Elite controller gets up to 40 hours of battery life. The battery itself is sealed in, though. You're not using AA's batteries. And then if you look at the Switch Pro controller, I don't really have to charge that thing much at all, but I believe that's right around 40 hours as well. So definitely one of the major sticking points for a controller at $200 that I think Sony should have looked at that and said, hey, we're going to put a larger battery in here. We're already buying this thing thinking about a more premium feel that generally equates to even a heavier feel to it, because we're expecting metal parts and different things in there that maybe are substituted for just like junk plastic in some of the cheaper DualSense controllers. So unfortunate stuff here. I'm curious if it is just, I guess it's just the same battery, which, hey, if I get my hands on a DualSense controller, which I should get it as I did pre-order, maybe we'll open it up and take a look exactly what's going on in there. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo and their Holiday India event that is currently ongoing. I'm mostly covering this because, well, one, I'm sure there will be some fun surprises in there, but two, I kind of think the entire event's going to be capped off with Sports Story being announced and potentially shadow dropped that day on the 23rd. So stay tuned for that one. But for now, let's take a look at some of the games that were announced yesterday, which we can see this posted up. Nintendo Life is even covering this as just an ongoing page that is consistently being updated as well. So make sure you check that out in the sources. But let's see, we have the Gecko Gods. That's out in 2023. They say it's an adorable puzzle platformer where you control a small gecko through a bunch of mazes. We have The Captain, that was just shadow dropped, it's out right now. It's a narrative adventure game where you'll need to make huge Mass Effect-like decisions that can affect who lives and who survives in space. Risk of Rain returns. This one surprised me a bit because It's a game, I guess it will be 10 years old next year. As they're mentioning here, it came out in 2013, but I remember that coming out, and it getting a remake now is interesting. It will have brand new modes and enhancements. I noticed that the visuals will be better overall. They also talked about some of the audio and stuff. So, hey, why not? It's a good game. People liked Risk of Rain, so Risk of Rain returns coming out next year. And finally, we have Punch-You-In. It's a new puzzle game that's out now, and it's from Shinen, the developer of Tourist and Fast RMX. In this one, you control a penguin who punches boxes, but I have to give Shinen credit here. The Tourist I thought was a good game, and Fast RMX was awesome, especially when it released alongside the Switch. It was really, really well done there. And they've done some very impressive stuff when it comes to file size versus what you get out of the game. So I will check out Punch-You-In just because the other two titles that Shinen's produced were really good. And so far, the reveals I think have been pretty good. Nothing massive that I think is popping off the screen to people, but they're just fun games to have revealed as we head closer and closer to Christmas time and the holidays and all of this. So still crossing my fingers for Sports Story, but I think that's one of the last reveals that'll happen, like I said, on the 23rd. Next up, let's talk about High on Life, which is a game that just came out on Game Pass, a week and a half ago, and it released to pretty poor reviews overall. But what's interesting about this case in particular is it seems like the general gamer population is enjoying this title as you look on user scores, Steam reviews, and all of this. And I'll admit, I'm playing through this game and I'm getting close to the end of it, and I think it is better than the Metacritic score that's reflected for it currently. But it looks like at least the divisive nature of this game when it comes to the opinions online has continued to thrust it into the top spot on Game Pass. Take a look at this. This was posted up by Benji Sales, who has been following High on Life the entire run up the chart here for most popular on Xbox. It actually passed Minecraft. I saw that, I actually was shocked because Minecraft is just always at the top. And obviously one part here with High on Life is it's very accessible as it is on Game Pass. So if you hear people arguing back and forth about it, you could say, well, I have Game Pass. I'll just go ahead and download it and try it for myself. And now we have this press release over on news.xbox.com. High on Life is Xbox Game Pass's biggest 2022 launch and the biggest third-party Game Pass launch ever. They say it's the biggest release of a single-player only game in the service's history. Those stats are measured in terms of engagement based on the number of hours played in the first 5 days of release. This from Mike Fridley, who's the studio director and COO of Squanch Games, the studio behind High on Life, saying this was our first time launching a game with Game Pass, and we've been blown away by the response from the players who have made us the most popular game on Game Pass now. When Squanch Games was first created, it was to make the games we wanted to play, and Game Pass is helping us reach the players that want to play those games too. Now, I have seen some say that this game wouldn't be successful unless it was on Game Pass, and I'll admit, I think Game Pass clearly is having an effect on how many people are playing the game, but remember, High on Life jumped up the sales charts on Steam. It jumped above Call of Duty at one point, so people are spending full price, the $60 to play this game, and they're still turning in positive reviews overall on Steam and on Xbox through Game Pass, yes, but they've mentioned during the run-up to this that one of the reasons they work to partner with Microsoft, obviously money, but also the exposure from Game Pass, which I think is this underlying thing that people aren't necessarily considering now, but maybe when Game Pass gets to 100 million users, maybe a publisher looks at that and says, you know, maybe the money isn't necessarily as high as we'd like, but if we could have more people playing this game through Game Pass on Xbox, maybe they will check it out on Steam, as we're seeing with High on Life, and maybe it can set us up for the future with a sequel that we want to create, or just a new title in general. When they become more familiar with the studio, maybe they will follow them on to the next game. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised now, after seeing this success, if Microsoft just works to maybe partner with Squanch Games into the future. And sure, it could be for something Game Pass related, but maybe they just want to work with them to create a full or a larger game in scale compared to High on Life, which does border, I would say, between that AA and almost AAA feel. But hey, congratulations to High on Life and Squanch Games. I think it is a very unique title that is worth downloading to see what you yourself think about this one. The fact that it's on Game Pass means it is very accessible, so go ahead, take a shot and see what you think. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a new piece of hardware for the Game Boy, like the original brick Game Boy. Yeah, it is really fun to see like these newer pieces of technology get worked into some of this older retro hardware. But check this out. This posted up over on Twitter from Sebastian Stacks. This has finally released the GB Interceptor, an open source RP2040 based adapter that goes between your unmodified Game Boy and the game cartridge to record or stream your gameplay via USB. And they released an entire video on YouTube showcasing how they were able to accomplish this, where you do indeed plug, the Interceptor, it being a go-between from the cartridge to the Game Boy, from USB into your PC, and you can run it straight through OBS and capture footage from it for your game, which is pretty cool. I know people are thinking, well, I can run it on my Analog Pocket through the dock. I can do something like play it on my PC through emulation. Well, apparently the reason that this was created in the first place was because an unmodified Game Boy was needed for a more competitive aspect when it came to Tetris. So how do you do that? Well, instead of modifying the Game Boy or even the Tetris cartridge, you modify a cartridge that would go between both of those and not affect any of it. And trust me, I understand this is certainly a niche market for something like this, but the fact that it was possible in the first place and they were able to figure all this out is impressive on its own, and the results are pretty cool, seeing just raw gameplay coming out of the Game Boy with this little cartridge that attaches to your Tetris game and it runs right to OBS. It's impressive stuff. So I would recommend checking out the video to get a more in-depth description on how to do it. And it also provides all the shows you all the parts and different things you can apparently use to build your own. And I might look into that. I don't know. It is an interesting thing to consider, having that and maybe checking it out in a video. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, if you own a PS5, has the DualSense battery life been a problem for you so far? 66% said no, 34% said yes. So it will become a problem for you if you either don't charge your controller regularly or really between gaming sessions, or you just happen to have an all-day gaming session or even all-night gaming session going on, because you will run into that limitation then. And I've actually done it myself to where I didn't charge it one night, and the next day I come back and I didn't realize it till I'm playing. It must have been at like half charge, and a few hours in, it's dying, and great. And I realized, oh yeah, that charging station that I have that I should have put the controller on, I get it, had another controller on there, so I had to switch controllers because the battery's sealed, so you can't pop AA's in or anything, and I'm not running a cable all the way across the room to the PlayStation 5. That's kind of where we are now. I have 2 DualSense on hand just in case you have a longer gaming session of mine. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Stan saying, Kojima did not get everything he wanted from the first Death Stranding because of Sony's server limitations. He wanted the player to have more interaction with others. Also, it wasn't too long ago Kojima was talking with Xbox, was my thought, to get around those limitations. So I can't confirm if the PlayStation servers or anything like that, but I do believe that his next big step has to do, yes, with cloud gaming, but also the social interaction. And that's why Death Stranding 2, I'm very curious as to the direction he takes this entire thing in. But kind of already known to a degree, the character Sam Porter Bridges and all this, right? Like, we have an idea of at least somewhat of the premise. I'm really interested in what he's going to do when he taps into the power of the cloud, right? Like, the idea of cloud computing being mixed together with some idea that Kojima has that could span the entire globe. Ooh, that could be something to see. Well, I guess we'll find out about that probably couple of years down the line because it seemed like he was just getting started with Xbox's project. But when it comes to Death Stranding 2, and with the first Death Stranding, it was the Strand system. It was kind of this asymmetric multiplayer aspect to it where you would help people indirectly by leaving a ladder somewhere or something. And when I logged back in, like obviously like over a year later for the director's cut, I checked it out and I said, wow, everything's built now. It wasn't like that launch week, but I go back to this game and there are highways built, there's ladders everywhere, ropes, and I think that was just the vision overall, bringing people back together, working together for no other reason than just you hit a little like button and yeah, it was fun. But it definitely made things way easier now as opposed to when the game came out. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the DualSense Edge, with the battery life being moderately less than the current DualSense controller. How do you feel about that with the $200 accessory coming up here soon? And then also, what about Nintendo's indie event that's currently ongoing? Do you like some of the games that have been revealed, and what are you hoping to see here soon? And then High on Life. Have you got a chance to try it out? Because it seems like a lot of people are at least checking in. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.